Welcome back to video 21 of the series for staying healthy and preventing COVID-19 infection during the current pandemic. In this video, we are going to discuss about how does vitamin D reduce the risk of getting COVID-19. So, to address that, you need to know how vitamin D get inside our body. So it enters into the lung gastrointestinal system and through mucous membranes following binding to the receptor called angiotensin converting enzyme 2. So it's called the shortened form is ACE2 receptors. So these are ACE2 receptors which is an actually enzyme which cleaved angiotensin 2 into its benign and very useful peptide called angiotensin 1 to 7. So, however, the coronavirus in the family have learned to use this receptor to sneak inside the human cells. So, even though the ACE2 is used by viruses, having a higher concentration of ACE is actually protective against COVID-19 due to many other reasons, including all the other coronaviruses. We'll discuss that in the next video. So ACE2 is an enzyme, part of which is soluble and circulated in the blood. But the majority, however, is attached to the membrane of the cells of the three type of tissues which I previously discussed. Particularly important is attached to the pulmonary epithelial cells, or so-called pneumocytes. Physiologically, it is very important to control the blood pressure and other homeostatic mechanisms. Unfortunately, ACE2 is also the host receptor that allow the SARS-CoV-2 or COVID-19 and other coronavirus to get inside the human cells. It's a door, it's a window with a key, and the coronavirus know how to open it and get in. So these critical cells, including the intestine, mucous membrane, and alveolar cells, the lungs, are the most vulnerable for attack by coronaviruses. They actually kill these cells, and the number of cells goes down, and the sufferer, the patient condition get worse on every day. The process of attachment of the COVID-19 to ACE2 receptors causes further disruption of the renin-angiotensin hormonal system, which we discussed in the previous video. So this paved the path for massive rise of inflammatory cytokines, because angiotensin 2 actually does that stimulation or the release, synthesis and release of very many inflammatory cytokines, leading to a thing called cytokine storm. So this storm comes from due to the variety of cytokines released at a given time, causes tremendous havoc in the body itself, leading to acute respiratory distress syndrome, as we previously discussed. So in addition to regulating the renin-angiotensin system, adequate concentration of calcitriol, which is a hormone, also increases the concentration of ACE2 and reduce the entry of COVID-19 into the cells. So they had a significantly beneficial effect there itself. As we see later with our discussions, vitamin D plays a major role in reversing this COVID-19 attack into pulmonary cells. So, and controlling oral bowel favorably. So you can imagine the opposite side of the coin. If you don't have the vitamin D adequacy or vitamin D deficiency now, you are increased vulnerability to attack by COVID and develop complication, and indeed significantly increase the deaths. So a number of previous research studies suggest that down-regulation of the ACE2 signaling pathway is involved in the worsening morbidity and mortality associated with several lung injuries models, specifically sepsis and the toxin-induced acute lung damage. However, this is exactly what happened with the COVID-19. With the COVID-19 attached to number of these ACE2 receptors, it produces signals, so it downregulates the production of ACE2 receptors. So you can see, imagine the negative vicious cycle build up, though the complications and the death occurs eventually. So calcitriol, the activated form of vitamin D, is tightly involved in the regulation of this renin-angiotensin hormonal system at multiple levels. It suppresses the production of renin, which converts the angiotensinogen to angiotensin, and ACE, or the angiotensin converter enzyme, converts that into angiotensin 1 and angiotensin 2. This delicate maintenance or regulated balance by calcitriol. Vitamin D is directly involved in protecting the acute lung injuries, as shown by the previous studies which mentioned. Again, all these are applicable to COVID-19 situation ongoing now. For example, the animal studies have shown that vitamin D subdues the lipopolysaccharide and viral-mediated lung injuries, and thus preventing the acute respiratory distress syndrome by coronavirus. So maintaining serum 25-hydroxy concentration above 40 nanograms per ml is known to significantly reduce the microbial infection, specifically the respiratory viral attacks, including COVID-19. So enrichment of food is an economic and effective approach for the elevation of micronutrient deficiency, including vitamin D in a given target population, or in an epidemic like this in the entire country. Unfortunately, again, there are no countries proactively doing any of these to protect their citizens. In the case of COVID-19, those with vitamin D deficiency as a group are the most susceptible not only for the infection but also occupying the ICU beds and indeed deaths due to weaker immune system. So, in conclusion, the administration of vitamin D is protective against acute respiratory tract infection, especially in subject with vitamin D deficiency. All evidence suggests that irrespective of the living location, whether in the northern climate or in the equator area, having adequate concentration of serum 25-hydroxy vitamin D, even prophylactically done, the daily exposure to summer, like sunlight for example, could reduce the incidence and severity from any of these viral disorders, specifically from COVID-19. So I strongly suggest that try and boost your immunity, either getting this vitamin D from sunshine or get supplements, adequate supplementation, the oral route. To date, again, I need to emphasize that none of the governments in the world seems to understand this principle of being proactive to prevent the diseases in their citizens. I never seen any advice given by any government or mass media in this regard, even the health departments. So I'm again very happy that you are very familiar with now not only vitamin D but also ACE2 receptors that used by COVID-19 to enter into the human cell and try to kill human beings. However, ACE2 is in fact the beneficial for our survival. It's an essential part actually. Although coronavirus take the advantage of this molecule to get in, or what I call sneaking into human cells. So, with that in mind, in the next video, we will going to examine the beneficial function of ACE2, why it has been developed evolutionary, and how it actually will save our life. Thank you for participation in this series of videos, and don't forget to subscribe to this channel. Thank you.